Nightwish I have not previously covered on this channel, so I probably should give a bit of backstory about basically just my time with Nightwish and what I have overall thought. So I got into Nightwish after the first lead singer, Tarja, left the band. So she was the first lead singer. She did something like 3 albums with the band Nightwish. She left, she went and did her solo project. And then they got a new singer that went by the name of Annette something. And they released the album The Poet and the Pendulum. So this is the album I kind of came in on. I was around the age of something like 14 or something, so I was pretty young at this point. And so yeah, 14, 15. And a friend kind of got me into it. He showed me the music video to Bye Bye Beautiful. I thought the vocalist was really good. I kind of liked the male vocalist that kind of came in for the chorus. I kind of liked the instruments. And then I kind of listened to the second track, kind of forgot its name, and I downloaded the album. I thought it was pretty good. I kind of enjoyed it. And then as kind of months went on, I kind of moved on to kind of other things. And then eventually this album released probably in 2012, because there's posters that say 2012 that will kind of come up at some point in this video. So it probably released 2012, maybe 2011, because the posters are for the movie that came out. So I was around the first year of college at this point, so I would have been looking around the age of 17, 16 or something when this album came out. So I kind of left Nightwish after everything. So I kind of liked not Bye Bye Beautiful, The Poet and the Pendulum. I kind of liked that album, but eventually I kind of just got bored and moved on from it. When Imaginarium came out, I kind of downloaded the album again, tried getting back into it, but there was all these kind of grand elements about it and things, so I'd listen to the album, but then some tracks kind of bored me, and then other tracks were more interesting, and then there were some elements of tracks that were good and some elements of tracks that were bad. It was this really massive kind of thing, and there was all sorts of stuff going on, so there was some little things I liked and a lot of stuff I didn't. And then it was hard to kind of keep up with and memorize things because things were constantly going all over the place. So I kind of liked the album. I kind of preferred Annette's singing in this as well. I preferred more of the anthemic side of it. But I kind of just gave up more on this album because it was just a bit harder to kind of get into than The Poet and the Pendulum. That was a bit more simplistic than this album was. And then as years kind of progressed, I started looking at Tarja's own stuff. I kind of thought she was interesting. I looked at Phantom of the Opera and Nemo, some old Nightwish tracks with her. And I thought, yeah, she's a good vocalist, but the band didn't do anything super spectacular, super symphonic. Her voice, albeit good, lacked a lot of range. Like, it didn't do anything which Annette could really do, and it didn't really do anything that Tarja could really do. And then noticed the new singer, Floor Johansson, something like that. So I noticed her. I tried listening to that new album, so the album after this one. Wasn't keen on it. I thought it was awful. And then I noticed people reviewed the track The Poet and the Pendulum with Floor singing it, and just said this is what we really wanted, singing like this, which Annette couldn't do, which I think is ridiculous because, like, well, Annette sang this the exact same way, and this is also Annette's song, so saying this is what we wanted from Annette, well, this was Annette. So people are saying, oh, this is good, this is what I kind of wanted, but Annette never did it. It's her bloody song, so she did. So a lot of the Nightwish fans actually kind of seem thick and don't actually seem to follow with the music, with especially in that case. My overall thought of all the 3 singers, because I haven't really stayed in, I just kind of come in and out and just listen to the odd track, which I kind of like. So that's kind of my take with Nightwish. Saying what kind of singer I like the most, obviously I've stuck with Annette the most. Does that mean she's my favourite? Not necessarily. Annette is very kind of a very high-end singer. She's very high got a high vocal delivery, as Tarja has a very opera sounding voice. So she's always in the opera style. She never veers really out of it. And it is excruciatingly high, so she doesn't really do anything in the low ends. She can do, like if you listen to The Poet and the Pendulum, because Annette has done it, it does exist for all them Nightwish fans who don't seem to have a clue that she did it. There is an opera part in that track, and she actually does do it. Is it to the same degree as Tarja? No, it isn't. She has a high voice, so it doesn't have that kind of deep bass to it. But she can do it, it's just not, she doesn't do it perfectly well. Floor's kind of in the middle. She has a kind of high-end voice, but not as deep as what Tarja can do. So she's basically the best of both worlds, but she isn't really a master of Annette's high-end or Tarja's low-end. So when Tarja does something really low and operatic, Floor can kind of do it, just not to the same extent. And then when Annette has really high elements, Floor can do it, but doesn't master it. So the first track, Storytime, on this album, and there's very high elements to it, and when Floor performed this live, it sounded bloody awful, because she just wasn't nailing the highs, and it does it, you know, like a breeze. It doesn't seem there's much to it. Floor seemed to really struggle with it. So people saying, oh, Floor's the best, and it sucks. Well, Floor can't really do the highs like Annette can. When it comes to high notes, Annette can do it perfectly well. When it comes to low notes, Annette can do it, but she's not perfect at it. Floor can do it a lot easier, but she's not as perfect as Tarja. So, I like all of them for different reasons. And they are all basically in the same class. They're all, I think it's soprano singers. So all of them are in the exact same category. They basically just have different ways of performing, and they have different pitch areas, but they're all soprano singers. So a lot of people hated Annette. I liked Annette. I thought she was a really good singer. So I'm reviewing imaginaerum now. Why am I reviewing it? A lot of people really like Nightwish. It's a massive band. I've listened to this album enough to really have an opinion on it, so I thought I'd just kind of give what I think of this album, and you know, that's basically it. Just tell you what I overall think. So let's get into the first track, which is Take Telvi. I'm not even going to pronounce that. So this track is basically just an intro track. It's like 2 minutes 35 seconds, so it's like the length of a short song, and it's just an intro. So what does it involve? Well, the song starts off with like the winding gear that is on like one of these old toys. It's just one of these gears on the toy, and they turn and turn, and then it plays this kind of like music box sounding thing. And then it's the bass player, so he's a male vocalist. The bass player, he's singing this, but in his foreign voice, so it's sung foreign, so for people who are English and everything, don't really have a clue what he's saying. Obviously he's singing along to the music box and everything, so it's not exactly his, you know, high, powerful voice. A lot of people like this guy's voice. I think sometimes it's really good, and other times it's pretty bad. This is alright, but it's nothing really too special to me. I'm not exactly that keen on his voice here. It just sounds a bit bland and dull to me. Could be the fact that I don't know what he's saying, or it could just basically just be the fact that there's just not a lot of high energy there. He's better suited for power, his voice. So it's basically just that with the music box. Eventually piano comes in, and then eventually a female opera singer is just like, oh, and that's about it. And that's kind of it. So people can say, well, it has the male vocalist, we like the male vocalist, so we'll listen to it. It builds the album up. It does actually play into the first track, which it does. But the first track does have its own kind of build as well, so if you delete this track and just go straight into the first track, Storytime, it actually just works. So what would I really suggest? I suggest this intro track is kind of pointless. You don't really need it. You can just delete it and just go straight into the first track. I don't think you're going to miss a thing. So yeah, it's a pretty empty track. nothing to it. Just delete it and move on to the first track, Story Time. First intro track, completely pointless. So let's just get into the first actual track then, Story Time. So Story Time lasts 5 minutes 22 seconds, so it's a pretty longish track, not really overly. So it's just kind of in the middle between like short and a long track. So you get an intro, as I say, first, which is, you know, you've got kind of keys, you've got drums, and then you've got guitars coming in at part, doing the typical thing of just dun-dun, and then pause, and then dun-dun, pause. You get a bit of bass by itself, just dum-dum-dum-dum-dum-dum, until everything kind of comes in, and then it's like aggressive kind of keys, aggressive kind of like guitar riff. It's basic guitar riff, it's like just bloody chords, there's nothing talented going on, it's just bare bone basic stuff that indie bands can pull off. It's just got, you know, that beatty kind of sound and everything with the keys and everything. It obviously fits into this kind of progressive kind of metal symphonic thing. So then it gets into the verse where the vocals comes in, and then they strip everything out, and it's basically just bass and drums. The drum is excruciatingly simplistic, it's just dum-ch, dum-ch, dum-ch. It's basically all the drumming there is, and then the bass is not doing any unique kind of rhythms. There's no unique sound, it's just some fat thing that you're not really supposed to care about, I think. There's nothing musical about the bass, nothing interesting about the bass. There is nothing to the bass. The vocalist, therefore, is completely isolated and by herself. So the music is excruciatingly terrible here, it does nothing to support Annette, and with that intense, you know, intro, like, oh, this is going to be something quite big, something very symphonic, a lot of energy, then it just strips down to, we're just going to leave everything bare bone and just out there. I think it's a bit stupid. And then the chorus kind of builds it back into this high-end energy, like symphonic, orchestral thing. It's like, alright, it's a bit, you know, it's not flowing at all. Everything's ripped apart and just glued together, so it's weird. The chorus is good because of all the kind of like high end keys and everything and the symphonic nature of it, and then Anna is singing in this very high pitch singing style. You can kind of argue like she's kind of like in a squealing kind of voice, like it's excruciatingly high, but she's not squealing, she actually has full control over it. So it is pure singing, it's just unbelievably high. So for people who think Annette can't sing and just say she's a god-awful singer, get out the band, you can't argue, unless you're dumb, that this is pretty amazing, this kind of singing. It's very high and she has unbelievable power over it. That would be unbelievably hard to pull off. I don't think Tarja could do it, that's for sure. So everyone's saying Tarja's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, she is, she has an amazing voice, but she can't do something like that. Not that I think. It's just way too high for her. And as for Floor, I've heard her do it live, and dear God, was she awful at it. So, really like that. I love the high energy and the amazing control over the voice. I kind of like the keys and everything. Everything's very bright and aggressive. The second verse, they actually have guitars involved this time, so it actually gives it a bit of levity. But again, the guitar, it's just like this fat sound, but basic. So it's just like, oh, we're just gonna make it fat and everything, so yeah, metal, and you know, that's all you need. But it's like, no, I'd like something interesting. You've been doing symphonic things and it's supposed to be big and energy. It's like symphonic metal and like opera things, and it's like musical. It's kind of like this idea of, and concept of the album is trying to take elements of Phantom of the Opera, which I've listened to, as well as the sequel. I'm a big fan of Phantom of the Opera. But they strip things down to such bare bone basic, and it's like, no, you kind of need a lot of energy. You can bring it down, but when you bring elements down, you kind of need something there still. Even when everything's low and quiet and simple, you still need something musical going. You can't just go, well, this is a quiet part, so we're going to take all the music out of it. This is a bit stupid. And then the guitar, again, it's not doing anything that interesting, so you've just got this simple drum bass that is just completely pointless, and then a guitar which is doing something quite basic. And then it gets back into the chorus. As I say, I really like the chorus. And then after that, you kind of get symphonic singers just ba 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 ba. So that's kind of the rhythm the orchestral singers are doing. I like that. I like the orchestral singers, but it's just this small little section. It's like, why don't you put it in the entirety of the song to make it some big anthemic thing? Instead of really stripping it down and making the song kind of more basic, you're trying to trick people by thinking it's huge, but actually the song's quite basic. So it's not bad, but it's pretty simple. So let's just get into the next track, Ghost River. So Ghost River, there is a lot of elements to this song that I actually really like. So basically, the second it starts, there is something I really like. The guitar is actually doing a riff, which is actually pretty good. It's in the style of a lead, so it's this lead riff, not a lead solo or anything. It's just this kind of lead, kind of interlude. This is just within the intro. But because it's a lead and it's actually a bit kind of, you know, exciting and things, it just adds a lot more to the song because there is an actual lead instead of just being a simple, just kind of chugging chord. So it just adds more, there's just more excitement to it. And I think it's the only time he does it in the album, so a bit stupid, but I'll give it credit here, but I'm going to slaughter it later on because it's not sticking to it. So intro good. As for the verse, guess what? There's a drum beat that goes dum-ch, dum-ch, dum-ch. The exact same drum beat in the other track, and then there's a bass which is like just like in the other track. So musically it's exactly the same as the track before. There is nothing different. The only difference is basically that the lead singer Annette is actually singing in a different style, with different words. Other than that, it's the same bloody track. It's shocking. It's just the following track. You don't think people can notice it's the same bloody drum beat at the same speed near enough, with the same bloody bass. Absolutely ridiculous. Unbelievably lazy musicianship right there. So Annette again is just singing in a standard kind of singing style, so it's just like there is so little there. There's nothing. Eventually, when the rest of the band comes in, it gets very aggressive. It's actually the bass player who takes over in the vocals. He's very shouty, very aggressive. It is very shouty, so it's difficult to actually understand what the bloody hell he's saying. Is it singing? No, it's shouting and it's yelling. The concept is he's like an aggressive kind of force, and he's just very aggressive, and he's a different kind of character, and Annette's this innocent kind of soul and things. So I get the concept, and because of that I have an appreciation for it, because they are actually using it to convey something instead of it just being shouting for the sake of I want to shout. So a little irritated about it, but also I'm okay with that. I understand why they're doing it. And then when the chorus actually kind of kicks in, it's still him going. While he's shouting, Annette does do some kind of singing parts, like sprinkled throughout his singing part. Her singing kind of changes to a bit more of like, there's more kind of fear in her voice, and you know, a bit of shock and things. So that's kind of like the portrayal she's putting in. But as for the chorus, this male vocalist actually does start doing a bit more of a singing style. Obviously there's a bit of character put into it, so the lyrics is like down, down, deeper down, the river wall will take your only child, something like that. So, you know, there's drown, drown, deeper down, the river wall will take your only child. So it's quite vicious and gruesome, the lyrics. So it's definitely something that's quite kind of evil kind of way and everything. So I really like that. And then Annette really faint in the background, is just doing them so she's really faint in the background, and because of her kind of high voice, and she's a great singer, so it's very angelic, it's very faint in the background, while this male voice really powerful in the foreground is just drown, drown, deeper down, the river will take your only child. And then she's in the background, this really sweet angelic voice and everything. Just sounds like it's just falling into this like dark abyss and everything. So it's just like the two concepts there are absolutely brilliant. I really love this demonic kind of entity that he's doing and everything, and then the down, down, deeper down, and the rhythm of it and everything. really well done, and then her voice being this, you know, angelic soul and everything, and in the background and everything, just all the positioning, the flow and everything, really well done. I really like this. Then the second verse comes in, and guess what they do? You guessed it, a guitar comes in with just simple chords. I don't know how you guessed it, it's just exactly the same as the last track, but who would have known, figured that? So yeah, grace over that because that's pointless. Chorus pretty much the same, apart from near at the end, they actually bring children in that are now saying, drown, drown deeper down the river, wall or sword will take your only child. So children are actually singing it along with him, so it's just like, that's a little creepy, and I really actually like that. As for after that, there's like a kind of, they bring the opera singers in again, and just kind of set similar points in the track like the previous one, so it's a bit repetitive. And then there's a heavy chuggy guitar part, kind of like in the last part, and it's just, you know, heavy chuggy chords and everything, and you know, everyone's like, heaviness, yay! I don't get pleased that easily, it needs a bit more than that, but whatever. And then after that it goes to kind of like Annette, and it's very empty, but her singing is actually angelic here. There's actually something to it instead of it just being like simple and standard singing style. It's very angelic, it's very soft, kind of floaty, and there is this kind of like little flute in the background and little drum and everything that just slightly supports her and flows with her voice as it kind of flows and everything. So this is how you do something very simple but actually make it musical instead of just strip it to just nothing. This is how you're supposed to do it. Then it leads into the kids just singing it all by themselves, drown, drown deeper down, the river will take your only child. Then the male comes back in, and then Annette does her very faded background noise. So it's really creepy. I really love that part of it. So yeah, I like Annette's soft part and near the end. I like the aggressive yell kind of thing, but at the same time not too overly keen on it, but I do like it as well. The chorus I really love. I love the use of the kids and everything. I like the guitar kind of lead for the intro part. No lead solo just like last time, so obviously a guitarist who can do leads because he has done lead solos and he's pretty good at them. But he doesn't really ever do it because he's lazy and an idiot, I guess, so you know, a bit bad on that. So let's get into the next track, which is called Slow Love Slow. So Slow Love Slow, I really actually like this track, but at the same time it's the worst track on the album. So it's got an interesting sound to it that you don't hear really anywhere. It's the sound that you would hear in like World War I or World War II, so it's like the 30s or something, or 20s even, sound. It's basically, the picture of this song is basically in a bar filled with a lot of smoke, and there is a woman in a red dress laid across the top of a piano while the pianist plays and then she sings. Perfect picture. That is basically the sound of this song. So you don't really hear that, do you? Anywhere these days. I don't think anyone does it. So it was really interesting to hear this. It's a 5-minute 50-second song, so obviously it's fairly long, it's nearly 6 minutes, so to see how this song kind of progresses and all the different elements they do with this is obviously it's really interesting, just all the different things they can do with this sound nowadays with metal and everything. So it starts with piano and everything, there's a bit of bass at time, there's some horns at time, near the end the horns get a bit more prevalent. There's obviously Annette singing in that kind of old-fashioned style and everything. She has a real nice voice and everything. It's very smooth. The male vocalist comes in at one part. He's very deep and everything. In the chorus where it's like slow love. They do a bit of a duet together, so he's quite nice there as well with Annette. He does work well with her here. That's basically the song. 6 minutes of basically the same thing, just piano, Annette, and then the odd horn. 6 minutes. They don't go anywhere with it, they don't evolve on the sound. They bring a horn in, and then there's a guitar solo one, there's only 2 on the album, so don't get too excited. It's a blues solo, so obviously again I really like that because you don't really hear blues solos in metal because it's metal. It's hard to really incorporate a blues solo into a metal song. So because of the old fashion of this, he can. So it's interesting to hear that, and he does it quite well. It's not overly spectacular, but it is nice and it's interesting and it's new, so I like it. But other than that, there's nothing unique about it. After that, he brings in high gain guitars and then takes them out because then high energy horns come in, and then at the end it's just slow, and she just keeps repeating slow for absolute ages with the horns just kind of going off on their own and everything. It's just like, okay, so you just brought horns and you just keep repeating bloody slow, and then it just takes ages for the track to bloody end. So it's just like, why didn't you do like the Nightwish style symphonic thing, but in the style of that era, and do something? But no, it's just like, this is a well, it's not brand new, it's ancient. It's like a really old concept and sound profile that hasn't been done in so many years, and you haven't reinvented it and, you know, utilized it and took it in different, like, new areas that have not been heard of before. Who's done like the old piano bar scene in like the 20s and 30s and metalized it? I don't think anyone's done that. Maybe someone, but it would be bloody rare. And they missed the opportunity. They just did nothing with it. Now, obviously, in the concept of the story, because Imaginaerum is a concept album, and you can kind of argue, well, it fits the concept. If it went really heavy, it wouldn't work. Because it's like, but I'm not seeing the concept. I'm not seeing the, like with Phantom of the Opera, when things go quiet and music kind of changes, you are also getting the vision with it. If it's just by itself, it doesn't work as well as when you actually see the characters acting and see how the story flows. I'm not getting that. So it's just a really slow song. I'm wanting to listen to a metal album and I'm not getting that. They're trying to do the story Phantom of the Opera style thing where it tells a, you know, massive story and things, but without the visionary story there, it's just like, musically you're just a bit all over the place. You do really slow parts, and now you've done this really old school part which may fit in with the story and everything, which is like, who's going to come to this and then listen to this and say this is the best song? When people who listen to Nightwish are obviously more into the symphonic kind of metal thing. So I just don't think this really works. I think for most people this isn't going to be the best, is it? So really failed experience, because they could have done something really special with this, and they decided not to bother because they don't have the imagination to do it or something. I don't know. So poor effort with what was given to them here, but oh well, let's move on to the next track, I Want My Tears Back. Right, so I Want My Tears Back is now finally a track which for the most part I actually like absolutely everything about it. It's all consistent. So it starts off with heavy guitar riff and everything. Again, it's still kind of like simple chords, there's nothing unique about it, it's very simplistic. But it's a nice heavy kind of sound, and then you get a duet of I Want My Tears Back from Annette and the bass player. Sounds good, and then you get a flute that comes in, and it's very reminiscent of the area they're from and everything. Actually, it sounds Irish. It's like kind of got an Irish sound to it, this flute and everything. So whole band's going, this Irish flute's kind of doing its kind of lead interlude kind of thing over the intro of the song, and I really like this. Like, the flute sounds really amazing. It's unique to Nightwish and everything. It's this Irish kind of sound and things. The band's not Irish, by the way. It just has this kind of Irish feel to it. So yeah, it sounds beautiful. It's got energy. It's got nice flow. The dun 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 at the start, and then the duet of I Want My Tears Back, leading into this beautiful kind of instrumental kind of flow of this flute and everything with the rest of the band and everything. And then it goes into the verse. And dear God, it's the exact same drum beat. It's just a dum tch, dum tch. Dear Christ, this drummer sucks. the same drum beat, there's nothing different, it's exactly the same for the third bloody time now. The only thing that actually makes this actually good is basically the keys. The keys are very, very light, very bright, and they work well with Annette. So Annette is doing this really nice thing in style. Musically, the keys is flowing with her. It musically nicely kind of flows off of the intro. And then the verse flows into the pre-chorus with Annette getting a lot kind of brighter in her voice. Then it goes to the chorus, which the bass player does, and he's got great flow. The band definitely is like working with him, it flows. And this is the problem with the previous songs. Everything didn't flow together, everything was like completely mashed apart. The intro flows into the verse flows into the pre-chorus flows into the chorus. The other tracks didn't really do that. Musically, they weren't supporting Annette in verses. Here, kinda does support her, especially with the pre-chorus and the chorus. And there's energy, like the flute and everything, and then everything. So the previous tracks just didn't have any of this. So all of this is working. And yeah, as I was saying, the chorus, the bass player singing, he sounds really, really good. Definitely one of his best vocal performances on this album. And it works really well coming off of Annette and everything, and it's still flowing, it's still got that energy. And then it goes into I Want My Tears Back duet with him and Annette and things, and the flute, and then it goes into the verse again. I don't know if the guitars actually come back, so it, you know, being repetitive, I've kind of forgotten. But the chorus happens again, and then after that, you basically just kind of get the flute doing this kind of real Irish kind of thing, and the guitar actually does the lead kind of Irish thing. You know, a very Irish kind of sound thing, and the guitar does it. It would be nice to have a guitar solo in the style of an Irish kind of sound, but you know, of course he's not going to do that. He's excruciatingly lazy and doesn't have imagination to, you know, pull off a solo. And who wants to hear, you know, a talented solo? You know, who's interested in them sort of things? Stupid. So, yeah, it plays off the flute and then the guitar and then the guitar and then the flute and the guitar and the flute. So they're basically just doing this kind of Irish thing where they just keep the speed up and going, and then changing the pattern, how it kind of flows and everything. Just this really fast, kind of high energy Irish sounding thing, and then it leads back into the chorus. So even though it is just this kind of repetitive instrumental kind of part thing with the flute and the guitar, it is, you know, the Irish kind of thing. There's really high, fast speed energy and things, and then we kind of keep changing just how it flows, kind of. But that's kind of how it works, so you can't really argue with it because that is the way it's done. So let's get into the last track for this part of the review, which is Scare Tale. So Scare Tale starts, you know, kind of creepy, just as the song title probably would make you think. So there's kids singing Ring a Ring of Roses in a creepy fashion. There's kind of light keys and things, just a creepy atmosphere going on. There's strings being played, eventually the band come in. It's basically that high energy opera singer thing, so, you know, dun dun, with the opera singer is like ha ha, and then dun 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 dun, ha ha. You know, it's very typical. Nightwish, I kind of do that dun 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 thing all the time. It's a very similar pattern they always follow with the opera singers. I do like the opera singers, obviously it adds a lot of kind of energy and it sounds really cool and everything, but it is a pattern that is kind of followed through Nightwish's career. When they want to do something a bit more high energy, it's all this dun dun dun. So, you know, it sounds good, but you can easily say it is a repetitive formula of Nightwish when they try and go a bit more symphonic. Then they get to just, you know, heavy guitar riffs, just dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. You know, it's extremely simplistic because it's heavy. It's going to please, you know, really simple-minded people, so it's there for them. Again, some female opera singers just holding on a note, just So some interesting stuff going on, but some formulaic Nightwish things, some heavy, bland guitar riffs for simple-minded people. So a bit all over the place there with some good things, some pretty bad things, and then depending how you feel on Nightwish, repeating the similar formula of the dun-da-dun thing. As for the verse, Anita's singing in a character style. It's very creepy, so there's a bit of a gnarliness to her voice, a bit of whine at certain parts, a bit of aggression. So she's trying to sing in this kind of creepy kind of way and everything, in a gothic fashion. It's a little weird, it's a little, different, so, when you first hear it, it's a bit, weird, it's a little odd, you may not really like it, because it's not, typical normal singing. It's just like, this is a really weird voice, so it depends, if you can accept it or not. I know when I kind of first heard it, I just thought this is extremely weird and everything, because I've listened to it for a while now. I just kind of take it as, it's just normal to me now. So, for newcomers it may just be a little odd, but, there's a character to it, it's a different, singing style. So, if you get used to it, obviously there's something to be appreciated there for, the difference and, the kind of gnarliness and creepiness and, just the character she puts forward and everything, just to, do all that, and it's different and unique. So there is appreciation for that. The band underneath it says, still quite simplistic. The next kind of part is the bass player takes over the singing part for the middle part of the song. And yeah, I don't really like it. I can tell what he's doing, like he's going for one of these, gothic circus announcers, we cordially welcome you, that kind of thing. And then put on your dancing shoes, trying to be quite gothic, a circus presenter and things. But is it really overly musical? That's the thing, because I'm listening to an album and I'm wanting to listen to something, musical and something interesting, so we cordially welcome you. Is that music? Not necessarily. Is it singing? No, and then put on your dancing shoes. Again, that's not really musical at all. Thing is, again, it works if there is a stage production. That's the thing. This album is trying to be a stage production like Phantom of the Opera, but because I'm not seeing it. If I was to see him kind of like dancing around on stage, talking to a kid, showing him around this circus act, and it's all gothic and dark and everything, and there's music going, it will paint the picture and it will work with the vision. But without a vision and it just being this kind of stale, not overly musical thing, it doesn't work as well because of that. So it will work with a vision with it, but without the vision, it doesn't really work. It's not, typical music. So with a scene to watch, it works. Without the scene, it's not working. So all this, we cordially welcome you, and then put on your dancing shoes. It's just like, it all kind of slows down and just gets a little weird. So when he kind of finishes his part and then it does the kind of build up back into that dun 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 with the opera singers coming back, it's like, oh yeah, there was actually a real high energy, spectacular part of this song. So it's just like, oh, this is, cool and interesting. So when that kind of comes back in, it's like, oh, this is really good now and fun. So that middle part, it's just a bit out of place. It doesn't work in just a standalone album. For stage production, it will work, but for this, not really. Like, it's alright, but it's just not musical, just like when Anne's by itself, and then the intro, and then the last bit of the song. That's musical and everything, that middle part, not exactly musical, is it? So, that's basically it for the first part of this review. So, yeah, a bit of a mess and all over the place. You've got songs which are not flowing, and they try and go into different elements and have multiple things going on in different styles. But the thing is, the band is overly simplistic at parts. There's some verses which are so simplistic and excruciatingly repetitive. Nightwish have a similar formula of, the verses with Annette. It's always the same formula, and then the dun-dun-dun, similar formula. So Nightwish have a presence of being something grand and big and everything, but then when you kind of dive into it, there is actually not a lot there. And it has a great voice, and there is a lot going on, and I actually think the band's not supporting her So a lot of people saying, and it sucks. I think the band actually isn't supporting her very well. When they do support her, she's incredible. But when they don't, she's just alone, so it just seems weird. And then again, as I say, with the music cutting out and then following similar patterns, and then they try and do musical things of stopping and starting, and then things aren't flowing because they're trying to do a musical production, but because there's no image there, it just fails. So and some good elements, there's some bad elements. Some songs where everything flows, it's great, and then other songs where it's all choppy and everything, it just doesn't work very well. So let's just see if the second part of the album is kind of better than the first part, because there's some things I do like, but other things not so much. So we'll have to